Welcome to another episode of Relatively Famous, the podcast where I, Chip White, interview relatives of famous people. My famous relative is Vanna White of Wheel of Fortune, and today's guest I'm super excited about. His name is Sanjiv Chopra. He is Deepak Chopra's brother, and I'm just super excited to hear what this man has to say because he is probably as worldly as his brother. And speaking of brothers and family, if you're looking for the perfect family vacation, go to visitmyrtlebeach.com. Now, if you happen to be a parent of an autistic child or an autistic adult, there's a show called Traveling the Spectrum, sponsored by visitmyrtlebeach.com, that's on Peacock. You should check it out because it also shows you how to travel at Myrtle Beach with kids of autism and sensory-sensitive children. That's at visitmyrtlebeach.com. You can find the link to Traveling the Spectrum and Traveling the Spectrum 2. And let's welcome Sanjiv Chopra.
Relatively Famous Podcast with Chip White.
Sanjiv, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm excited to have you on.
I'm thrilled to be on the podcast, on your show.
So we were introduced through Dr. Joren Harris. He reached out to you. I did Bathrobe Moments with him. Super nice guy. And he's like, I know someone needs to be on your show. Now, I am familiar with your brother. As maybe you're familiar with my sister. I don't know. What for you has been the biggest challenge of, and I won't say standing in your brother's shadow, but he cast a pretty big shadow in the world.
Yeah. So, Deepak and I are very close. He's 3 years older than me. Of course, he's amazingly accomplished and has written 95 books, 25 of them New York Times bestseller. And I can't go anywhere in the world. I show my passport or my ID and they say, Chopra, are you related to Deepak? So one time, I'm in charge of the American Gastroenterology Association annual postgraduate course, 10,000 gastroenterologists from all over the world, with another colleague of mine from Harvard Medical School, Tom Lamont. And I wear my suit, I go to the convention center, and there's Starbucks there. I get my coffee, and I'm wearing my badge, and the lady behind the counter, behind the cash register says, Chopra, you're not related to Deepak. I said, yeah, he's my brother. She said, oh, I love him. My mother loves him. We've read every book of his. The cafe latte is on me. So she gives me the cafe latte. I come out, leave, and I call my brother. I said, Deepak, where are you? He said, I'm in Istanbul. And this is about 23 years ago. So I said, Deepak, you finally came through. Took you 52 years. But I finally got a free cup of coffee because of you. Another time, I check in, same thing. Chopra, you're related to Deepak. I said, how do you spell it? She said, Deepak. I said, never heard of the guy. So we're very close. I have a better sense of humor. We wrote a book called Brotherhood, Dharma, Destiny, and the American Dream. And he wrote 12 chapters. I wrote 12. They alternate. And lots of wonderful photographs of our childhood, our lives in America. And we did a 5-day tour, and it started at 92nd Y, this iconic YMCA in New York, Manhattan. 1,200 people in the audience. So the anchor, Jeff Pulver, interviews us and then opens it up to the audience, 1 hour of questions. And the first question comes to Deepak. Deepak, if you were sitting next to an enlightened person and could ask one question, what would it be? So I put my hand on his shoulder. I said, Deepak, go ahead. I'm ready for your question. So I'm very proud of him. He's a great guy. We meet 3 or 4 times a year. He lives in New York now. And I have a daughter and son and granddaughters who live in New York. So we often go and see him, have lunch or dinner with him.
So you were talking about your childhood, and this is an off the wall question that I've been asking. So I ask sometimes, what did your childhood smell like?
What did my childhood smell like? It smelled of the outdoors, the wonderful aroma of rain on parched earth, the flowers in the garden. My father was a brilliant, brilliant cardiologist, professor of medicine, and he was in the Army Medical Corps. So every 3 years, we packed up and went to a different city and joined a new school. And so some of these smells are of the school, the cafeteria, the dry clean places, lots of wonderful aromas.
Yeah, they say that this a scent is the quickest way to a memory more than sound, a song, or anything. And I know that when
Yeah,
for me, it's like I'll smell. We call it pluff mud, which is the smell of the mud at low tide in a marsh on the ocean, and I can smell
yeah,
that. And people go, "Oh my God, that's horrible smelling." I'm like, to me, that's a loving memory, you know.
yeah. It's amazing. Most people will not even believe this. And I read it, and then I read it again, then I read it again. The human nose has about 400 receptors for smell, and it can discern a trillion different scents. That's uncanny. 1 trillion. And the dog can discern even more scents. And the studies that show that as an adult, if you lose your sense of smell, it's one of the most devastating because you also lose your sense of taste.
Yeah, I
So
could
that
see
was
that.
a huge problem during, when people after getting COVID lost their sense of smell. Luckily, most people have gotten most of it back.
What has been what's your life been like? Because you have more letters after your name than my sister has turned in her career, and have written some amazing books. Tell us about your life, because I mean, everybody knows your brother. Everybody's seen him on Oprah. What is your life like?
My life is one of being very happy, very fulfilled, living my purpose in life. There's a Sanskrit word called dharma. Dharma incorporates vocation, moral compass, authenticity, and truth. If you and I can find our dharma, we'll be amongst the happiest people on this planet. So at age 12, I'm studying at St. Columbus High School in New Delhi, arguably the most preeminent all boys school in India, Irish Christian brothers. And we're staying with our uncle and aunt. Deepak is 3 years older. I'm 12, he's 15. Our father was posted 300 miles away, and our parents wanted us to finish our schooling at this great school. So, on a warm, sultry weekend, I play a cricket match. And then Sunday evening around 7 o'clock, I'm reading something. I'm not feeling that great. I put the book down, take a 30-minute nap, and I wake up and I'm terrified. My eyes open, everything is black, pitch black. I blink my eyes, I look again, I can't see, I'm blind. So I nudged my brother. I said, Deepak, I can't see. And he must have done visual threat and reckoned I'm not faking it. And he started to cry. I have one brother, he's turned blind. My uncle takes me to the military hospital in Delhi. And there the doctors examine me, including, I believe, an ophthalmologist. And they don't have the foggiest idea as to what's going on. I can hear them talking. Maybe it's hysterical. If somebody is faking it, you come from the side with a sharp object, a pencil or a pen. And obviously, if you're faking it, you see it and you'll shut your eyes. And finally, they get a hold of my father. This is 1961. He's in an army jeep. And very calmly, he says, Tell me everything that's happened to Sanjiv in the last couple of months. I said, He's been fine. He said, No, everything. Any injuries, any meds? Oh, yes. He had a laceration to his right thigh with a sharp object taken to the casualty ward, which is the emergency room. He got stitches. Was he given an antibiotic? They looked in the records, mentioned it. He asked another question. Did he get a tetanus shot? And they looked and very proudly they said, yes, he was given a tetanus shot. And my father asked one more question. What kind of tetanus shot? Anti-tetanus serum, ATS, or anti-tetanus toxoid, ATT? So they looked in the records and they said anti-tetanus serum, ATS. And I have no idea how my father divined it, but he said to them, Sanjiv is having a rare idiosyncratic reaction to the anti-tetanus serum. It perhaps occurs 1 in 250,000, maybe half a million. He has a severe form of bilateral optic neuritis, localized form of serum sickness, only affecting his two optic nerves. They are ready to burst, start an intravenous, give him massive doses of corticosteroids. And that was done. And 12 hours later, my vision returned. I've told this story to professors of ophthalmology at Harvard, at Hopkins, UCLA, Stanford, Mayo. And they go, oh my God, how did your father even know that? He saved your sight. You could have been blind for the rest of your life. So the next morning when I woke up, I said, it is my dharma to be a healer like my father. I mentioned this story in one of the chapters that I wrote with Deepak Brotherhood in the book, and I entitled it Blind for a Day. It's an incredible story.
Wow, that's the fact that your father kind of pulled that out of, you said, thin air is amazing. And now you say that kind of fulfilled what you determined to be your purpose.
Yes, that's my purpose. And I've been fortunate enough to travel to 106 countries, give talks not only to physicians and clinicians, but CEO clubs, Barron's top 1% investors, wealth managers, philanthropic organizations, many of them, especially children and philanthropic organizations. It's a great honor, and I don't charge any kind of honorarium. So I'm fulfilling my dharma. I wrote a book with a former colleague and a dear friend, Gina Wild, when I was the faculty dean for continuing education at Harvard Medical School. She was the associate dean of external communications. So we worked a lot together. And she also learned meditation from my wife, who is my classmate from med school, a pediatrician, now a teacher of meditation. And we wrote a book, and it's called The Two Most Important Days: How to Find Your Purpose and Live a Healthier and Happier Life. And when you open the book, a wonderful quote by Mark Twain, who said, the two most important days in your life are the day you're born and the day you find out why. If you find your purpose in life, you're one of the happiest people on this planet. So in the book, I have my purpose because a lot of people ask me that question. And it's a little long, but I'll share it with you. My purpose is to fulfill my dharma, to teach medicine, leadership about happiness, to do it grounded in humility, with an ardent desire to learn every single day, to celebrate with gratitude my family, my friends, my colleagues, my patients, and my students who inspire me in countless ways, and in some small measure, inspire everyone I meet on this amazing life journey. So, any offer I get to do anything, if it's not aligned to my purpose, then I consider it a distraction or a detour, and I apologize and say to the person inviting me, it could be on a board, uh, three people, I'm the fourth person, there's already a Nobel laureate on the board. And I ask them, what is your purpose of your organization? And if it doesn't resonate for me, I say, I'm sorry, I can't join you. Not aligned to my purpose. I hope you will understand and forgive me.
Well, I feel honored that you accepted our invitation, that we are helping further your purpose. As a
Yeah.
parent, I have a son who's 25 who lives in another state. With your wife is a doctor in meditation. How calm are your children, and what was life like raising them? Because you seem just very like everything's going to be okay.
Yeah, my wife and I both learned, my brother learned first, And then after 2 weeks, he came to our home. He said, I've learned transcendental meditation. It's the best thing I've done in my life, and you should consider it. So my wife went the next day. She's very spiritual. I was the holdout. And I said, I'm glad you three need it. I don't need it. And then after she learned it, there's something called checking. You go a month later to make sure you're doing it properly. So I said, Amita, I'll drive you to the TM center, but I'm not even going in there. So I sat on the street in my car, and she's inside the TM center. It's going to take about an hour. I hear a knock on the window. So it's a guy by the name of Ted Weissman. He said, Hi, I'm Ted. I said, Oh, you taught my brother. He said, Yeah, I did. I didn't know what to say. So I said, Listen, tell me about TM. So he sat in the car. He gave me the introductory lecture, and it seems intriguing. I said, Listen, I have three questions. Number one, I'm the Associate Chief of Medicine at the West Roxbury VA Medical Center, Harvard Medical School. And I have to discipline these brilliant interns and residents from Harvard Medical School. I don't want to become mellow if I learn meditation. So he looked at me, he smiled, he said, You'll be more assertive from a silent level. I said, that sounds good. I said, number two, I drink occasional scotch and I smoke a pipe, and I don't want to give that up. He said, well, whatever happens, happens from inside. There are no requirements. Most people, when they learn, they decrease. Some people stop. I said, number three, I'm in the finals of a tennis tournament a week from now. If I learn meditation, will I win? He says, I'll be back. So he runs into the TM center and he comes back with a pamphlet. The TM program in athletics, excellence in action. Testimonials by Willie Stargell, Joe Namath, Olympic gold medalist, diving champion, how learning meditation helped them focus and be calm. So I looked at him, I said, this is interesting, but if I learn, will I win? And he looked at me and he said, I don't know, but if you lose, you won't feel that bad. So it's been 43 years. I meditate twice a day for 15, 20 minutes in the morning and then in the afternoon. Our parents in India learned it. My kids learned it. My grandkids have learned it. And it's one of the most powerful things we can do in our life. Basically, I call it unfolding your own potential. The analogy I give is you're going in an elevator. The elevator goes from the ground floor to the 100th floor. I get out on the 22nd floor. You may get on, Chip, on the 40th floor, and somebody on the 50th floor. We're all ascending. We're all ascending.
So, what? How how did your children kind of take to that? I mean, my son's pretty high strung. Probably could try to talk him into that.
Yeah. So, I think they watched us and they would see how much more happier we were, less stressed, better sleep. And children are very observant, even at a young age. I think one has to lead by example. I've written a book called Leadership by Example, the 10 Key Principles of All Great Leaders. And I'll share with you a story of Mahatma Gandhi. He's sitting in his ashram, and this mother walks 8 miles in the dust and heat with her 12-year-old son. She says, Gandhiji, look at my son. He's gained a lot of weight. He eats a lot of sugar. Would you please tell him not to eat sugar? He adores you. He worships you. He'll do anything for you. So Gandhi looks at the boy and the mother and he says, come back in a week. So they go away. A week later, they trudge 8 miles in the dust and the heat. Gandhi looks at the boy and he says, son, don't eat sugar. It's not good for your health. And the boy says, Gandhiji, from this moment onwards, I have given up sugar. And he leaves the room. And the mother stays behind. She says, Gandhiji, thank you for saying that to my son. Can I ask you a question? He says, sure. She says, we were here a week ago. You could have said the same thing to my son then. And Gandhi whispers into her ear, at that time, I had not given up sugar.
Ah, that's interesting. Okay.
Right? So we have to lead by example. So, if you radiate happiness and joy and equanimity and peace and wisdom, the kids will soak it up. It's amazing. Sometimes we're sitting having dinner. My kids are now all in their 40s, and they'll say, Dad, you remember on my seventh birthday you said this? I said, What? I don't even remember saying it. And I thought they were not even listening, but they soak it. Children are amazingly, I call them the modern day philosophers. John Lennon, the Beatle, went to school. He was 5 years of age. And the teacher gives the kids an assignment, write down what you want to be when you grow up. He writes happy and he hands it to the teacher. And the teacher says, John, you did not understand the assignment. He looks at the teacher and he says, and you don't understand life. 5 years of age. His mother, every night when she tucked him into bed, said, John, when you grow up, I want you to be happy. Albert Schweitzer, Nobel laureate, once said, success is not the key to happiness. Happiness is the key to success. The ancient Greeks did not use the word success. They used a term called eudaimonia, which literally translated means human flourishing. And prior to Socrates arguing it, it was a prevalent belief that happiness was bestowed upon a select few. Who were these people? Philosophers, poets, nobility, royalty. He said, no, no, no. Everyone is entitled to happiness. And happiness and virtue are inextricably linked.
Do you feel that people misinterpret the word happy? Like, I'm supposed to be happy to be happy, I have to be happy every moment, as versus I feel for me, like, okay, I'm happy in a broad way, right? I mean, I'm happy with life. I'm happy. I have moments of doubt, despair, whatever. But I think people, if they're not happy every moment, that they think they're not doing it right. Does that question make sense?
That's a great question. So, in the book I've written, and in the many talks I give about this subject, I've come to the conclusion that the happiest people on this planet have four things in common. And the first one is they have a cadre of good friends. Your friends are your chosen family. I got very lucky with my one brother, and my parents. But I couldn't choose them, but I can get to choose my friends. Robert Louis Stevenson said, a friend is a gift you give to yourself. Khalil Gibran, friendship is a sweet responsibility, never an opportunity. The longest standing study on adult happiness is called the Harvard Grant Study. It's gone on for 85 years. What study goes on for 85 years? People drop out, they die, funding disappears, principal investigator passes away. So, a year after Hitler's troops marched into Austria, 750 21-year-olds in Boston were recruited into this study. 250 went to Harvard, the other 500 for very poor, dysfunctional families. Off they go to the war, they come back, re enter the study, detailed questionnaires, physical examination, EKG, blood tests. Who was in that group? What happened to them? Lawyers, doctors, teachers, accountants. 4 ran for the Senate. 1 became our president, John F. Kennedy. There were people who were skid row alcoholic derelicts, some died of suicide. And the major conclusion of the study, there are hundreds of studies, publications, but the major conclusion, loneliness is toxic. And that your satisfaction with relationships with friends is one of the strongest, best predictors of health, happiness, and longevity decades later. So, number one is friends. Number two is ability to forgive. Anyone listening, if you're holding bitterness or rancor against an ex, a friend, a colleague, a neighbor, sibling, get rid of it. The moment you make that decision, you'll feel this enormous weight come off your shoulders. Not easy to do. Louis Desmedis once said, to forgive is to set a prisoner free and discover the prisoner was you. Wow. So, friends, forgiveness. The third one I've derived from a quote by Albert Schweitzer, who once said, I don't know what your destiny will be, but one thing I'm certain of, the ones amongst you who will be truly happy are those who have sought and found how to serve. one of the best ways for us to be happy is to make others happy. So I've distilled it into three S: friends, forgiveness, for others. But the fourth one begins with G. We all sort of know it: gratitude. Express gratitude on a weekly basis. Write it down in your gratitude journal. As you're looking at what's in store for you next week, reflect on what transpired the last 7 days. Write down three or four things. Your happiness quotient goes through the roof. But happiness is more than the sum total of happy moments. And in order for you and me to have long lasting, enduring happiness, we have to find our purpose and live it. And
That's
sometimes that purpose comes by witnessing something horrific. And the person witnessing it says, you know what? This is unacceptable. I'm going to make a difference. One of my best friends, I consider him a mentor. He's 70 years of age. He's from the country Colombia. His name is Jaime Aramillo. I met him 20 plus years ago at a leadership course at Kellogg. And his story is that 50 years ago, so he's now about 70, he's 20 years of age. He's standing at a street corner in Bogota. And across the street, there's a sewer. And these orphans live in the sewer. And he's saying to himself, I should help these kids. A beautiful 7-year-old girl emerges, smiling at him. A car comes around the corner, stops in the middle of the street, window rolls down. Somebody tosses a toy, yellow school bus, Fisher Price toy. The car recedes. This girl has never possessed a toy. She comes running up to the middle of the street, picks up the toy. She's looking at Jaime Aramillo, beaming with joy. And tragically, as they're having this interchange, a speeding truck comes around the corner, smashes her into oblivion. And he says, this is it. I'm going to help these kids. He's adopted, house-schooled, and fed 100,000 orphans. So he's a national hero, hence the term Papa Jaime. He got nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize the same year Mother Teresa won it. He was a good friend of Mother Teresa. He would go to Calcutta and do acupuncture on the nuns and the lepers. And if you meet him, you'll see the bliss in his eyes. He found his purpose in life 50 years ago.
wow. That this has been super enlightening. I love your stories. And we're getting close to running out of time. What's the fondest memory you have of life with your brother? Whether it's last week, childhood, is there a memory that just brings a smile and joy to you?
Chip, there's so many, but one comes to mind right away. I'm about 7 years of age, 8 years of age. And on my birthday, I get a BB gun. And we was living in Jabalpur, central India. We had a huge, huge home in the army cantonment. And I come out, and in the front garden, there's a pole that's about 4 feet, 5 feet, inches tall. I put a can of cherry blossom shoe polish, empty can, and I'm taking my BB gun and knocking it off. And suddenly Deepak comes and he stands behind it and he puts his face there. I said, Deepak, what are you doing? He said, go ahead, shoot, you never miss. So I shot, it hit him in the chin and he's bleeding. He said, okay, now we're going to go inside and tell mom and grandma that I tripped and a piece of barbed wire nicked me. I said, Deepak, that's a lie. He says, no, I'm the god Ram and you're his brother Lakshman. You have to listen to me. So we go in, tell the story. My mother cleans it with soap and Dettol, puts a Band-Aid. My father comes in the evening. What happened? I tell the lie again. He tripped barbed wire. A day later, there's a swelling there. And my grandmother says to my father, you're supposed to be the most brilliant physician in India. You have missed the diagnosis in your own son. There's a foreign body in there. Take him to the hospital, get an x-ray. And lo and behold, when the x-ray is done, the pellet is still lodged in there. So they remove it. So he has a bit of a dimple in his chin, like Kirk Douglas, and I'm responsible for it.
That's funny. Okay, we are definitely running out of time. Last question. What is the one question that I did not ask you that you wish I would have asked?
You could have asked me, do you have any regrets in life? And my answer would be, I should have learned meditation when I was younger. I should have played golf when I was younger. And I'll finish with these 5 things people say. I should have traveled more. I should have been the bigger person and said, I'm sorry. I should have had the courage to pursue my dreams and aspirations. I should have said, I love you more often. I should have spent more time with friends. You know who says these? People in hospice. When asked by a nurse, what are your greatest regrets in life? So nobody says, I should have owned a new Lamborghini every year. I should have belonged to 3 country clubs. I should have lived in a bigger mansion in Beverly Hills. So the point of this is none of us should have any of these regrets on our deathbed.
Well, I'm going to look into those because I do some of those, and hopefully the regrets that I do have will vanish. I don't have a lot. There's a few things I should regret, but I think for me, the 2 things I kind of regret are I didn't finish college and I didn't serve in the military. Those are 2 that weigh heavy on me. That I could change the college. Don't think I can change the military. But I sincerely appreciate your time today. This has been amazing. And I don't know what to say, man. I'm just grateful that you spent the time with us, that you were willing to be a part of our show.
I am honored. My privilege. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Sanjiv, thank you so much, man. I feel enlightened, and I'm going to have to go back and listen to this episode a couple of times just to absorb all the information that you gave us. I want to thank you. I want to thank you, the listener, the viewer. Without you, the podcast would be nothing. I want to thank our sponsor, visitmyrtlebeach.com. And they are promoting the Traveling the Spectrum on Peacock. It's a show that deals with traveling with autism and sensory sensitive children and the places in Myrtle Beach that you can go. Again, that's visitmyrtlebeach.com. I want to thank Nelco Media, Nelco Comics for the great location. I've talked about it before, but 10% of everything I make on the podcast, which isn't a lot, I donate to joedance.org. I think you should check out joedance.org. It's a children's pediatric cancer organization. And if you happen to be related to someone famous or someone famous you'd like to see on the show, reach out to me at podcastrelativelyfamous@gmail.com. That's podcastrelativelyfamous@gmail.com. Again, thank you for your time.
You've been listening to Relatively Famous with Chip White. Please like and subscribe to Relatively Famous with Chip White.